Think the T-45 is just old junk? Here's why it changed warfare forever, and why you might still want one in Fallout 76. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into Fallout's iconic T-45 power armor, the original war machine that set the standard for everything that came after. It's clunky, flawed, but oh so historic. We're going to break down where it came from, what made it so important, its in-game uses, and why you might still want to track one down. So strap in, let's get into it. 1. The first true power armor on the battlefield. Let's start with what makes the T-45 so significant. It was literally the first powered combat infantry armor deployed in battle. Picture this, it's 2067, the Sino-American War is raging, and the front lines in Alaska are brutal. The US military is looking for any advantage to stop the Chinese offensive cold. Enter Westtech. They started developing powered armor only in August 2065. That's barely 2 years to go from sketches to a fully deployable battlefield suit. Not exactly a lot of time for refinement, right? And it shows. The T-45 had its issues, but it was revolutionary. It could let a single soldier wield heavy ordnance alone. No crew, no setup. Imagine being able to haul a big gun right into enemy trenches solo. That changed the game. And the result? China rushed to make their own versions but couldn't keep up. It was a stopgap solution for the Americans, but it forced an entire arms race in powered infantry suits. It's kind of funny though, the T-45 was basically a prototype they shoved into production because they had to. But that desperation is exactly why it mattered so much. 2. Designed in a hurry. And it shows. Now let's be honest, the T-45 wasn't exactly refined engineering. Westtech was under massive pressure from the government to deliver something, anything, that could stop China's push in Alaska. The result? They cut corners. There were known design flaws baked right in. One of the biggest was a vulnerability under the welding plate, a weak spot so famous it even carried over in some form to the T-60 model years later. You can really see the just get it out the door energy. Even Bud Askins, the project manager, basically shoved it out as fast as possible. But here's the thing, sometimes necessity really is the mother of invention. Despite the flaws, it worked. It gave the US a major battlefield edge when they needed it most. And that set the stage for all the improvements to come. Kind of like the Wright brothers with planes. It didn't have to be perfect, it just had to fly. 3. Protection and firepower, but not elegance. Let's talk about what the T-45 actually did well. First up, firepower. This suit let a single infantryman operate crew-served weapons alone. No more teams needed to haul around or set up heavy guns. You could just stomp around in your power armor and lay down serious fire. That was the real selling point. Protection was actually second. The armor used existing steel plating technology, not fancy composites or ultracite or black titanium like later models. That made it cheap and fast to produce, which was exactly what the war machine needed. But that had limits. As the war dragged on, Chinese weapons improved, and the T-45's steel plating became less effective. By the end of the war, it was struggling to protect operators as well as it once had. And let's not forget the mobility issues. Compared to the T-51 that came later, the T-45 was downright clunky. Soldiers could move, but they weren't exactly dancing around. 4. The workhorse of the war. Despite all its flaws, the T-45 wasn't just a footnote, it was the workhorse of America's power armor program. When you think of the Sino-American War in Fallout's lore, think of hundreds of these suits trudging through the frozen wastelands of Alaska. They were cheap enough to mass produce. They used existing materials, and the upgrades over time helped mitigate the mobility problems, even if they never fully solved them. There's something very World War II Sherman tank about it. It wasn't the best tank of the war, but it was good enough, and there were lots of them. That's what won battles. Museum pieces that became prizes. Here's something cool about Fallout lore. The original prototypes were supposed to become museum pieces. Literally, by 2077, they were slated for the Museum of Technology on the National Mall. If the bombs hadn't fallen, you'd probably be able to see them behind velvet ropes next to plaques about the brave soldiers of Anchorage. Of course, the Great War happened. No more museums, but the suits survived in scattered forms across the wasteland. That's why in Fallout 76, and the entire Fallout series really, you'll find these old clunkers lying around. And if you know what you're doing, you can still turn them into serious protection. 6. Brotherhood of Steel's favorite hand-me-down. After the bombs fell, the T-45 didn't just vanish. It became a serious asset for anyone who could get their hands on one. And the Brotherhood of Steel, they loved these things. It wasn't their flashiest armor, but it was reliable, fixable, and better than whatever rusty leather scrap most raiders had. In Fallout 3's capital Wasteland, you see Lion's Brotherhood and the Outcasts using them all the time. Even in Fallout 76, it's one of the Brotherhood's workhorse models. Honestly, it's the perfect fit for the Brotherhood vibe. Ancient tech, preserved and put back into service, even if it's old and flawed. 7. Fallout 76, where to find your own. Okay, let's get practical. How do you actually get T-45 power armor in Fallout 76? First, let's be clear, it's one of the least common T-series spawns in the world, so you might have to hunt a bit, but it's there. Here are the best options. Vendorbot Phoenix in Watoga Shopping Plaza's Super Duper Mart sells plans for crafting most mods. For an early piece, check Grafton Pawn Shop. Look on the cabinet in the first room to the right, next to the Tinker's Workbench. A left arm piece can spawn there. Otherwise, you'll find T-45 parts at various Type 2 power armor spawn locations scattered around Appalachia. It's not exactly plug and play, but if you're a collector or Brotherhood cosplayer, it's worth the effort. 8. Why bother with an old suit? Let's be real. In Fallout 76, you've got T-51, T-60, Ultrasight, T-65, even crazy stuff like Strangler Heart. Why would you want T-45? Well, because it's history. It's the first power armor that changed the entire world. And for role players, Brotherhood fans, or just people who want a classic look, it's perfect. It's not always about the best stats. Sometimes it's about stomping around Appalachia in the same armor that turned the tide in Alaska, flaws and all. So, that's the T-45 power armor explained. A flawed, rushed, but absolutely pivotal piece of Fallout history. If you've got thoughts on it or stories about using it in-game, drop them in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell if you want more deep dives on Fallout's most iconic gear. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you out in the wasteland.